Hello everyone, Taylor Johnson here. I wanted to give you an overview of the Maryland Realtors Buyer Agency Agreement. This is the new version as of August 2024. So you'll note that it is for both buyers and tenants in residential real estate brokerage. So the language applies to both with the buyer's information here and then the broker's information. So you're actually making an arrangement with the brokerage, and I, or whatever agent you are working with, is your representative of that brokerage. So the buyer authorizes to represent the buyer as the exclusive real estate broker in the acquisition of real estate and cooperatives. Is used in this agreement. Acquisition of real property should include purchase or lease. Term seller should include landlord, and term buyer shall include tenant. And then we specify the type of property you're looking for: single family, number of bedrooms, condominium, whatever it is, right? Buyer agency has a specific start date and a specific end date. Now, we are required to do this form if you want to look at a property, because otherwise, by law, any agent legally represents the seller. So when you want to go look at a property, anticipate that the agent is going to ask you to sign this form, and you can do it just for one day. You can do it just for that property. But it does help to set things in place and create an understanding of the relationship that you have with that agent. And note that you can fire the agent anytime, and the agreement. And in this case, I have specified 2 days written notice. So this tells you that the termination can also happen from the brokerage side. If a contract of sale is entered into during the term, which provides for settlement that occurs after the term is expired, then it is automatically extended until settlement. Fair housing, notice here that none of the protected classes can be discriminated against. We are obligated as agents to treat all fairly and honestly and with integrity. And we are obligated to respect confidentiality as well with all. And then there are some terms here. Exclusive relationship with the broker, that you agree to work with your broker or broker's representative. You agree to provide accurate financial information when needed so that the agent can do the best job of matching you with properties and lenders and so forth. Signs or advertisements on the property. If you go to visit a property or you drive by one and you see that it's open or coming on the market, then you agree to let your agent know so the agent can find out about the information and pass it along to you. If you go to if you see a new build, you agree to go with the agent so that the agent can establish some compensation for taking you there. And same with an open house. Always let the open house agent know that you have a realtor and who that realtor is. Coming soon, note that if a property is listed as coming soon, it may not be shown, and it will not yet maybe go up to syndicated real websites, but it is automatically updated to active on the expected date. The broker and me as the broker's representative agree to help you locate property according to your needs, to assist you through the process. This is a complicated process with multiple steps, and I'm like a coach, right, or an advisor to help you understand each step of the process and what the next step is. And I agree to represent your best interests. I have a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best
means for you. Here's where we agree on the compensation. So note that these rates are not fixed. This is entirely negotiable. Each real estate brokerage independently sets their own rates. Commission rates are negotiable. So whatever the rate is that you and your agent agree to, that's what you put in here. And most brokerages also charge a flat fee for administrative purposes, and that is usually also added in here. So your compensation is a percent of the sale price plus the flat fee, which is usually, $300 to $500, something in there for the flat fee. And this kind of explains the compensation. If you get under contract, then you are obligated to pay that compensation, and it's usually paid at settlement. If an agent takes you to look at a property and you decide to buy that property after the agreement has expired, there's a protection period in there of some days, so that the agent is still owed some money for having been the person who helped you see the property and realize that that might be the property that you wish to purchase. We can also here ask to have the seller pay the compensation. And that's what this paragraph is saying, that we can ask that. And also, then we'll go down more. So if there's a lease, then that spells out here what the compensation is in the lease. It's usually somewhere around a half a month. If the property is listed in the MLS, then the compensation is not listed in the MLS. It is still fully negotiable between the buyers and the seller. So the seller may be offering compensation and let your agent know that. And it may be the case that what the seller is offering is equal to what you've agreed to with your agent, or it could be that it is a little less than what you've agreed to with your agent. And it certainly could also be that it's more than what you've agreed to with your agent. And what this agreement says is that your agent and the broker cannot receive more than what you've agreed to in this agreement. It also says that if the compensation is less than what you've agreed to in the agreement, then you may be responsible for that difference. And again, we can always ask the seller to cover that difference. They may agree or they may not. Remember, it's all fully negotiable. And the same with a property that's not listed in the MLS. If we're going to a for sale by owner, we might have the same sort of thing where we can ask that seller to pay the compensation. Different terms here, basically saying that I am and the broker are only real estate agents. We are not tax advisors or attorneys or lenders or appraisers or any of these other things. We are lowly real estate agents, as I like to say. It also points out that I may represent other buyers. At the same time that I'm representing you, I could be out working with other buyers. And that's fine. It just means, my time is not entirely yours. But it also could potentially mean, that I might have two buyers looking at the same property, in which case I would feel obligated to let you know that. And I might even, if both of you decide to put an offer on the property, I might pass one of you to another agent so that you are truly represented well in that deal, rather than having me try to, best one client over the other. The broker shall have no obligation once we are under contract. to help you with other properties. I am also entitled to do ministerial acts, just to help somebody fill in a piece of paper, and obviously confidentiality rules. Now, this explains what is dual agency and interagent compensation. So when the buyer and the seller are each represented by the sales associate of the same broker, the broker is the dual agent. So I'm with Keller Williams. So say I'm your agent and we go to look at a property that's listed by another Keller Williams agent. Then we have an example of dual agency where we share the broker. However, the listing agent is a different person from me. So we can still maintain confidentiality. We can still both negotiate on behalf of the best interests of our clients without any conflict of interest. There are, of course, flood plain considerations, and this is a notice that these change from time to time. There's some resources here to go to find out whether or not your property that you're looking at is in a floodplain. There's also insurance maps, and of course your lender is going to check on this as well. And the one thing that they point out here is that it may not currently be in a floodplain, but they do change. And if it does later become one that is in a floodplain, that could affect your insurance rates. Repairs, if we ask a seller to do repairs, most often we're going to ask for those repairs to be done by someone who's duly licensed. And we're also going to check for permits if needed. Legal construction, this is a contract that is binding upon you and your heirs. And if it is signed by more than one, it is binding on their heirs, and so on. If we have one of these addenda, such as a consent for dual agency or these others, then we check that. And this is where you, as the buyer's agent, would sign. Now, there's also a consent for dual agency question. So remember, we just said a moment ago that the dual agency happens when the broker is the same on the buy side and the listing side. So a broker or broker's designee acting as a dual agent does not exclusively represent either the seller or the buyer. The buyer and seller can proceed to be represented by a broker acting as dual agent, and you need to sign the consent form. If you sign this ahead of time, which I encourage you to do, then you reaffirm your consent once you have a specific property in mind. So think of it this way. If when you sign ahead of time, it gives me permission to show you all homes on the market, including those that are listed by a Keller Williams agent. If you do not agree to this ahead of time, then I cannot show you a home that's listed by a Keller Williams agent unless we do this specifically for that property. So it just helps to kind of give you more options. And remember that I am an agent that does not represent the other side. And if that were the case that we were showing you one of my listings, then I would again arrange for another agent to take over either the listing side or the buy side to make sure that each person has true representation. You can, of course, refuse to dual agency. You could then also go find an agent in another company to represent you as the buyer if I am the listing agent or some Keller Williams agent as a listing agent, for example. Duties. I cannot reveal anything that's confidential. I cannot tell that you would accept a lower or a higher price or whatever. I cannot tell you why, reveal why you're wishing to buy or sell, and so on, or anything else that relates to negotiation. This is part of the obligation of working in your best interests. And so then you agree to dual agency. And then again, once we have a specific property, then you reaffirm your consent to dual agency. Now, in Maryland, we also have this notice to buyers of residential real estate that covers various terms. So there might be a covenant on the land that runs with the land. They are agreements that stipulate specific things about that property, such as you must agree to use it for charitable purposes only. So when you're buying the land, that covenant holds and you cannot change it. There are also deed restrictions that apply with the land, and again, they cannot be removed by the new owner. Easements, there might be a conservation easement, a utility easement, gas line. There might be a driveway that runs through your property to the property next door. That's an easement, and again, you need to be aware of those, and they carry with the land. If you have an on-site sewage disposal system with the best available technology that was paid for by the state, then the state has the right to come in and inspect and ask you to keep up to date with that. Propane tanks could be owned or leased, and so if there are propane tanks on the property, then you should inquire as to which status they are. Same with solar panels. They can be owned or leased, and again, you should inquire about that. Home security systems, you should be aware that there is a prohibition against recording without consent of all parties. However, having said that, it does frequently happen that audio and video do record what we're saying. So if we're in a home that has a security system, we want to be careful what we're saying. Wire fraud has occurred and still continues to occur. People hack into emails all the time, and then they send an email to you telling you what the wiring instructions are for your final payment. And lo and behold, when you get to settlement to sign your contract, the money isn't there because you sent it to the wrong place. So what this is telling you to do is to always verify the instructions by calling the number that your agent gives you at the title company and or whoever's holding the money to make sure that you have the right instructions. If the deposit is held by an escrow agent outside of the brokerage, and so I usually send my deposits to a title company, give a third party the responsibility for that, then we sign a separate escrow agreement. And you should be notified that in Maryland, the smoke alarms should be the 10-year single battery smoke alarms. They should not be replaceable batteries. And you should just be aware of that when you're looking at a property. And I always advise my buyers, if the property doesn't have those, then we should put that in our offer, because that is a Maryland law. There's also, when you're looking at a condominium, the right to look at the condominium documents to see what the finances and rules and regulations are, and get out of the deal if you find something there you don't like. And there's a reserve study that the state has required all condominiums to do, and that reserve study should be presented as part of that material. All right, so then you would sign this, and those are all of the state forms, and then there's an MLS form. So MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service. It is the service that shows all the properties that are currently for sale or rent in the area among all different brokerages. So it is an open and transparent system of cooperation among the different brokerages, so that we can, back in the old days, if I was with Keller Williams and I wanted to show a property with Long & Foster, I had to go to the Long & Foster office to look through the binder of properties that they had for sale and pick up the keys from them to go to the property to show it to you. Now we have this open system where it's all available online. I can see homes listed by any brokerage, and I can usually arrange electronically for a showing and go to the property, and there's a lockbox or some other arrangement to let us into the property. So it really facilitates the buyers looking at properties relatively easily. So that's what the MLS does. And this explains to you that we have this cooperation among the different brokerages. It is open, transparent access to information. It brings accuracy, enhances historical records. And by the way, you know, most people use Redfin or Zillow or Realtor.com or something like that. They all get their information from this MLS. So this is the parent source, and all the others draw from it. There are broker fees that we talked about earlier that are negotiated between the buyer and the buyer's brokerage and agent. They are not set by law, trade association, or Bright. They are fully negotiable. That's what this is saying. Also, they are not disclosed on MLS. MLS does not have any information on what those fees are. So you work with your agent, and the buyer tenant can ask the purchase offer for the seller or landlord to cover those costs. If you're a seller or landlord, you may choose to cover the costs if you wish, if you're asked. So then the buyer initials here that they understand those things. And the bottom of it is for listings, which we won't get into today. And finally, most brokerages, particularly large brokerages, have some kind of affiliated business arrangement disclosure. And what this means is that there's usually a marketing arrangement or a partial ownership arrangement with some company, and they're telling you about that. So in the case of Keller Williams, it's saying that we have partial ownership with Universal Title, and there's also an arrangement with KVS and RSS Title that's some partial ownership. And so they want you to be aware of that there are other settlement services out there. You certainly, as the buyer, have the right to choose any title company you wish. And you are free to shop and determine what they are. You do not have to use these companies. There's also a disclosure that Keller Williams Capital Properties is part owner of Mission Mortgage and Shelter Mortgage, and that you, again, if you're working with those mortgage providers, you are also providing some compensation to Keller Williams, I guess is what they're saying here. And then there's Town and Properties Insurance Company, which is also partly owned. So there's that disclosure of all partial ownership. And then these home warranty companies, Cinch, Chosa, Super, all advertise and promote their product at Keller Williams Capital Properties. That's making you aware of that. And here you acknowledge that you do that and you sign, right? So the companies are specific in this situation for me and Keller Williams. The idea is the same whether you're at Compass or Long & Foster or Realty One or XP or whatever, right? Almost all big brokerages have some kind of affiliated business arrangement. Well, folks, thank you so much for your time. This is certainly a lot. If you have any questions, you'd like to go through a specific piece of this or receive these documents on your own to have a look at, please reach out to me. My name again is Taylor Johnson. I'm with Keller Williams Capital Properties. I'm part of the N. Garcia team. If you liked this video and found it useful, please click the like button so it helps other people like you find it. Subscribe to my channel to get more information. And most of all, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day. Bye now.